You see them online, real estate entrepreneurs. But how are they doing it? And what are they doing different? We've got the answers. This is the Real Estate Block. Interviewing real estate entrepreneurs doing consistent real estate deals. If you want to be a real estate entrepreneur or you're already in the business, we've got on the pros that give the secrets and strategies to make it happen. This is the Real Estate Block, and this is your host, Aaron Gaunt.
Welcome to the Real Estate Block podcast, where we ask our guests the hard questions by taking a deep dive into their team, their marketing strategies, and their systems and processes on how they built a machine that spits out consistent deals month after month. Where the value given during this show will help you find and create consistent real estate deals. Today, I have my guest, Colton Fast, on the show. What's up, man?
Oh, nothing, man. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm stoked to put this mic to work and get some value out there.
Awesome. So again, Colin, tell us who you are, what you were doing before real estate, and why the heck did you decide to get into real estate?
Sure. So I started straight out of school, played baseball in college, got done with that. Went to straight out of school. I thought about playing pro ball for like a week, and then I had a job lined up, so I ended up taking it. So spent a couple years in eCommerce. I was running I think I was 21, 22. I was at that point running a $30 million portfolio of online sales with an analyst title. And so I was an analyst there for a few years, had a little bit of a break, tried to start some businesses. Nothing really was, I wasn't ready to start businesses, right? So ended up taking some odd jobs, and then I jumped back into an analyst role in transportation. So I was with Swift Transportation for another 3 years, intermodal train freight. So I was moving freight all over the country for all the big boys, Amazon, Walmart, everybody. So I left that just over 2 years ago in October. My brother had been doing real estate for a couple of years, so I joined him October 2020. Took a few months to get the ball rolling. We were just kind of dripping capital into this thing. We started to figure out what worked and kind of bash our head through some of those walls and what didn't work, especially as well. So been doing that since then, and here we are.
That's incredible, man. So I know I remember we did talk at our last mastermind about your e-commerce business, and you were telling me about some of the ups and downs of it, because I was kind of thinking about joining. I think it was just for me, shiny object. I'm not doing that anymore.
Sure.
I think you talked me out of it.
Good.
Yeah. And no worries, man. Obviously, real estate has been the way to go right now.
Yeah, e-commerce is crazy. It's become they've cut out every middleman, as close to a direct to consumer from factory as possible. So they're running on the tightest margins ever at this point. And so they're so efficient that it's hard to, in my opinion, these guys have huge scale even, and they're running at 3% margins, and it's not really the space I necessarily want to be in. So
you don't have your store anymore though, right?
No, not anymore.
Okay. So you totally shut it off. I mean,
yeah,
you probably made a good profit margin at that time. You joined with your brother. What was your first deal that made you get into real estate and say, this is where I need to go? This is what I need to keep doing?
It wasn't even my first deal that really sparked this for me. It was my brother's deals. And I was in corporate America, working a W-2, always didn't know enough about this and wasn't ever really looking directly at it either. And we were at the casino one day, and my brother and I, it was a friend's wedding or something. We're at the casino, and I'm making good money. I'm making close to six figures and having a good life, right? And I always felt like I was missing the boat a little bit though. And I knew I was missing my boat when my brother pulled some cash out, and he goes, "You want to see something?" And he's 2 years younger than me. And he goes, "You want to see something?" And shows me the little deposit slip. And he had like $87,000 in his checking or something.
Nice.
And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, and he's 2 years younger than me, and he doesn't have a job. I mean, there's a fine line between self-employed and unemployed, right? So I see that, and I'm like, oh, and I do some quick math. I'm like, man, I'm making this much money. I've never even had close to that much money personally, like in my bank account. So where's the disconnect here? I'm definitely missing the boat. I got to start learning, start getting into this stuff. So from that point, it still took me a good bit to really get in. But that was the spark, really.
Okay. So you're out of Phoenix, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So your brother and you're still partners?
My brother's actually exiting right now. So he's
Okay.
been doing this for about 5 years. He's exiting right now, and he wants to. His wife has grown this social media business with this
Oh, wow.
huge following, and she's starting to monetize and get really cool brand deals. So he's going to go work on that with her. I'm going to
Mm.
continue on with the real estate business.
Okay.
Mhm.
And we'll get more on that a little bit later, obviously, with your
Sure.
team and how that was structured and how you explained it to me when we first met. But back to when it first started. So your brother showed you this, handsome bank stuff at the casino. You said, "Heck, how do I get into this?" He was already doing consistent deal flow. What kind of deals were you doing? Were you doing real estate agent stuff? Were you doing wholesale, fix and flips, rentals? What was that looking like?
Direct to consumer wholesale, direct to consumer marketing wholesale, cold call only to start. We had right out of the gate, we launched with 4 cold callers, and I brought my analyst background, and where it really started and how it kind of went for us was I put together a couple 100,000 pieces of data, skip trace everything, and even I was list stacking. The very first thing I
Mm,
was doing was list stacking, basically. And so I'm calling what I deemed to be the most potent prospects. And from about 2 weeks after I jumped into this full time, we had more leads than we could handle. And my brother, he'd been running as a solopreneur for 2-3 years at that point, but just kind of deal here, lead there, follow people, chase people down for a year kind of thing. And he had done some good deals and done some good business, but we started to really churn with lead flow, and we got so many leads right away, we didn't know how to sell. And
right.
so then we started learning how to sell, and really
Where'd
we
you learn
started
that?
partnering with people.
Where'd you learn
So
how to sell?
um mostly we really started to dig in after a year of banging our head against the wall. We started digging into sales, and it started with CG. And we never
Mm,
formally hired a sales specific coach, but we hired several general business coaches, and through that we learned from some of the best in the business how to sell. So along with
yeah.
self education, the what's the book? You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar, the David H. Sandler. That's our sales gospel here.
No, that's incredible. And the reason why I asked the question on where did you learn how to sell, because I came in this business just the same blue collar job, didn't know anything about sales, and so I had to learn what sales was, right? And
Mhm.
where I learned it from was exactly, I think, almost the same exact book, but it was asking questions.
Mhm. Mhm.
I went on an appointment after reading that book, and I think it was Max Jimenez. He was posting this on his social media, and I bought the book. I read it, and I used what the techniques were in that book, and locked up a deal like a week later, and made like 50 grand. That's when I quit my job from that book,
Yeah.
and realized I needed to keep learning though, and that's obviously we talk more about that later, but. Yeah, that's why I asked, because it's like you can't, sales is not just natural. It is something that you definitely have to learn.
I think I'm naturally inclined a bit, and if you would have asked anybody like through my upbringing, I'm naturally inclined to make connections quickly with people,
Right,
and
right.
and cut right through all the stuff. Like just go straight to rapport, straight to trust, straight to problem solving with people, and without all the fluff. And personally, I'm just and I struggled because I was so direct in the beginning that I wasn't taking people through the stepping process. You're not
Right,
going to
right.
take somebody from 500K to 400K in your first conversation. It really goes 500K to 480, to 460 to 435 to, man, I can get it done for you at 405. Like it's a stepping process, and that's something I just want to go straight to 400. And I struggled because I was so direct.
Well, I mean, we're about to go down this rabbit hole of sales, but you're absolutely right. You got to have this like somewhat of like I take that back. You got to have like an emotional intelligence. If you could have this emotional intelligence, sales is gonna come natural. It's just that when you learn sales, yeah, you're able to kind of create more of a structure to your sales, appointment, phone
Mhm.
call, or whatever it might be. But you're right. What you just said is like you just want to go right for the kill, go right for the close. I always find it funny. I'm always banging my head against the wall when I get a seller and we agree on a number, but they don't want to move forward. I think that's what sales is all about. But agree on the number, but you also got to get them to close. You got to close the deal.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a fine line, I think, and I think that there's a common misconception about what sales even is, because
Hmm.
um, solving that problem and then guiding that person to a place where you're helping them solve their own problem.
I like that.
It's two different things. And I think in the really early stages of selling and in the really early stages of being an entrepreneur and even taking a sales job anywhere, I think most people think they're going to like convince somebody to do something that maybe they don't want to do or previously didn't want to do, but you're going to convince them to do it. I always tell my team, I'm not in the business of convincing anybody to do anything. I'm in the business of offering an option and trying to make it the best option that I can for that person. I'm offering an option. If it's not a good option for you, don't take it. I recommend you don't take it if there's a better place for you to solve your problem. But I believe in our product so strongly that I believe that we are the best place for you to solve your problem.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Austin, Colton, let me ask you this. What took you from doing that, those couple deals with your brother to doing a consistent deal flow? You had all these leads that were coming in, and I guess you were last time we spoke, you said you were going to all the appointments, right? You're going to all the appointments.
I still am now. I'm back in the living rooms. Yeah.
Okay. Did you up your marketing? Did you go to more appointments? Did you hire a team? How did you go from doing a deal here and there? Or was it like right out of the gate with your brother doing deals every single month?
We didn't do our first deal for 2.5 months when we started, and it was a $4,500 deal. And it wasn't that impactful, obviously monetarily, but what it did was prove the model. It proved to me, at least, because it was my first deal, it proved to me that I could make money in this business. And then it took another couple months and we did a $22,000 deal. And then it just started to snowball. It started to roll. It was never, the dam didn't break really until I would say about 15 months in. And we had a bunch of stuff lined up at the end of 2021, and it all just hit in February of 22. And so we were kind of figuring it out. And I want to give a lot of credit to CG, because that's when we call it the Great Awakening event, basically. Because I don't know, I was so reluctant to go to other people and to like, I was always trying to rebuild the wheel. And so we go to CG in January, the Great Awakening happens. And it also happens to be that all of my receivables hit in February, and we did 211,000 in February. And now I've got insight from this community, and I got a bunch of cash. So I get to deploy it in all the right places with all these resources helping me do so. And the dam really broke in February. We hired like 7 people at the same time, a bunch of lead managers, new marketing, new everything. We couldn't spend it as fast as we were making it. And that kind of persisted through, I would say, May. And we thought we had it figured out. That kind of persisted through like May or June. And we had we had 11 contracts at that time in June. And everything was selling like hotcakes. There was just not enough inventory, and it just didn't matter what you had to try to not sell a deal at that time. And so 10 of those contracts ended up falling out. So that was over $300,000 in receivables that just poof disappeared. So since then, it's just been crazy since basically June. It's been fighting volatility, crazy volatility, huge downturn. Phoenix has been getting hammered. I know everybody's getting hit, but I think we were so hot, we got cooled down so fast that it made it right. I think we're through the hardest part personally, but it made it extremely difficult to buy a house or put a house under contract one day, have it be worth significantly less 2 weeks later. So
that was Colin. You've taken a huge leadership within our mastermind. You're somebody we all look up to. Something that you're always go-giving on the mastermind. And one thing that I took away from one of our all hands meetings, and all hands are basically just us coming together during these kind of market corrections. I know I believe they used to do them. This was before me, but when they did when COVID-19 was around. But one thing I remember that I think I even wrote on the board. I don't have it up there anymore, but it was something I preached to my own team. I think I even reposted it on the CG Facebook page. But you said we are not going anywhere.
Yeah, we're not.
And that is what why I started this podcast and why I have people like you on here. Because market corrections, crashes, or whatever that might be, are going to happen. We're going to see people go out of business. But It's the people like yourself that shout to the rooftops, that battle cry, we are not going to go anywhere. And I'm glad I got to bring that up during this show because it motivated me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. What I realized, I was failing to make a distinction in my mind between quitting and ultimately, if I had to, just going it alone. And in my mind, I was failing to make this distinction that if I ended up just going it alone to get through this corridor, this restrictive environment, that I was failing or that I was losing or that I was quitting.
Right.
But the truth is, if I just operated just myself, I'm still pulling down a deal or two a month, and I'm still just fine. And as long
Right.
as I don't stop, I'm not going anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
and because and I've said this too, what else am I going to do? I'm not going to go do anything else. I'm going to do this for the rest of my career. And,
Exactly.
and so I'm not going anywhere. So
Colin, so that goes into my next question. So you said your brother is about to go join his beautiful wife, doing some amazing things. Now, where does that leave you and your team? What does your team look like now?
we're restructuring. I'm keeping everybody.
Okay.
But we are restructuring. We were split. We have an accountability chart, of course, and we've at different, neither of us fit perfectly into the visionary integrator model. I'm more of an integrator. He's more of a visionary, but we've been forced to sit in a lot of seats that are necessary to make a business operate. And so it was that he was running all sales and I was running all operations. And
Really?
I took sales and he took dispo. So I was running marketing, sales. I sit in the CFO seat, and he was running dispo, transaction coordination, and then relationship stuff and other things. So I'm just filling those roles for the moment. And with deal flow being down, it's not. I had to get a grasp on it, and it took me a few weeks to go sit in some of his seats and figure out what needed to be done. But for the moment, I'm sitting in all the seats. So it's
Okay.
but I've got a great team. I have 2 experienced lead managers, and they're setting appointments for me. And I have 3 assistants that do a lot.
That is okay. So you have you said you have 3 assistants, 2 lead managers,
Yep, and then 2 in marketing as well. Two assistants in
and
marketing.
these are all virtual, correct? Or do you have any in house?
My lead managers. So I have one of my lead managers is local to Phoenix, and the other one is he's half and half, in Miami and in Nicaragua. So
Okay.
he's like, I believe he's an American citizen, and he makes American wages and all that, but
Yeah.
he just is from Nicaragua. He spends half his time. So, and
Okay.
it's nice having him because he's obviously perfectly fluent in Spanish, and we're here in Phoenix, so it's important.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah,
Especially here in Southern California, our TC, she speaks Spanish. So I'm always pushing our Spanish leads to her.
yeah,
Yeah. All right.
you got to do it.
So that's kind of like that could be something that you're working to overcome with him leaving. How has it been figuring out filling that position, that all those positions that he was managing? Did you say he was also in sales and you were in operations? Because I thought you were in sales.
I've had sales for a matter of, I've probably had primary responsibility for sales for 6 months, the last 6
Okay.
months already. So I've pretty much been running it, as teaching it, coaching it, operating the pipeline, working the system, setting all that out, and then designing the CRM, all that stuff. We've gone down this huge CRM build. So, and then as well as I'm having appointments set for me. And so
Nice.
I'm just running around. I don't even have time to like review my appointment. I'm busy. The answer is I'm busy. And and so I don't have time to review my appointments. Like I call my lead managers on my way to my appointments. I'm like, tell me about this. What's the value? Tell me about this guy. What's the situation? Because I'm just going, and I don't have time to sit down and look at that thing for 3 hours before I head out on the road.
Absolutely. No, that's good. That goes into my next question. I mean, what does your marketing strategies look like? I know you said you had the 4 cold callers. What are you guys doing from marketing wise?
We do three main things. I would say we have reduced our cold calling efforts. We run 2 cold callers, but we also market to 350,000 properties. So 350,000 properties in our database, which I can go into that if you want in a bit, but and then we text as well. Text is a primary source. And the reason for that is because I believe that one person can, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. One texter can get 10,000 texts out a day, theoretically, or more. That's 10,000 touches out there in the world from one person's 8 hours. And one cold caller can make 400 touches a day, 400 calls, which have an answer rate of 5%. That's significantly less. One person can be more impactful with the same amount of time texting.
Right.
And then the third thing we do is big shout out Michael Frankie out of Kansas City. This gentleman built I call it a curated marketing campaign for pre-foreclosures. The principle can apply to any data set, but in particular with pre-foreclosures, we've learned the Maricopa County, Arizona process. And we hit them with a curated campaign. So it's text on day one, call on day one, text on email, mail, door knock, all on a schedule, all on different days. It's a curated campaign to get a hold of these people basically through multiple different avenues. So those are the three main things that we do for marketing.
Awesome. Okay. So it's funny. We after listening to Michael's presentation on pre-foreclosure, something we focus on as well. But you just said that you text, call, door knock, and all that, but you're also running around. So are you door knocking these pre-foreclosures?
Yeah, I've got everything on a map. Google Maps. It has if you would just export your stuff from Salesforce, plot it onto Google Maps, and then I've been able to color code it by urgency. So if it's like red, it's like these people have a sale within the next. And when I'm out, I'll just pull the map up and just where am I at, and I'll just go to the nearest couple darkest red ones, and it's the bandwidth I have for now. I would rather hit it harder for sure. People are getting so in this environment, we talk about who's going to sell, and the people who are going to sell are the only people that have to sell. Who has to sell? People have a pre-foreclosure, and the only reason that these people are going to be the people that are going to sell is because if you jump out of a $300,000 house, for example, at 3%, and you jump into a $300,000 house at 7.5%, your payment's going from $1,300 a month to $2,200 a month.
Right.
And those are, I guess, Phoenix numbers, but you're not going to do that unless you have to do that in this environment. So, but the thing is, it seems like this is an extremely competitive market. It seems like everybody understands that as well. These people who are going on the pre-foreclosure list are getting destroyed by wholesalers in the city of Phoenix. Everybody I talk to, I mean, they already got door knocked the day they got recorded. Like it's extremely competitive. So that'd be
better.
Yeah.
So I know your primary market's Phoenix. Are you doing anything else but wholesaling right now?
Yeah, I've got a couple flips going on. I got caught with a mid-luxury flip working on, so
tell us about that.
I bought this house. It was originally listed for, this is one of my biggest I don't know if failures, but one of my biggest like risk struggles since I've been doing this. So I bought this house it was originally listed for $999, but it was marketed horribly. And the agent never got back to people, and the sellers were really frustrated. So I ended up buying it at $680,000. It's a 4,300 square foot on an acre with a big old 3-car detached garage, beautiful bones. Like it should go for 300 to 350 a square foot, 1112. And I ended up buying it at 680,000. And I just did some really quick cosmetic flip stuff because it's what we were doing and making a ton of money doing it. And I put it back out there at $799. In 6 days, I was back on market. Problem with doing that so quick is that it didn't season on MLS long enough. So it went from 69 days on market to 75 days on market by the time I had it back up. So it showed poorly for 60 days. I pulled it back off the market, and now I'm doing a $45,000 renovation to make it beautiful and then list it again. So I'm sitting on it right now. I haven't thought about moving into it myself. It'd be a nice family home, but I got there's a lot of instability in my life right now. We got other stuff going on. We own some coffee shops. We're selling them.
Really?
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on. I got another kid coming in March. I mean, there's a lot going on. So
you have a lot going on.
Yeah. So moving into that house was like, I don't know about that.
So I want to back it up a little bit. You said it was on the market for $999. How did you get it? How did you get the purchase price so low?
It started at 999. They dragged it down to 860. And when I was looking at it, it was 860. And when, so I just happened to hit them in marketing. They were with an agent, all that stuff, but they asked me to come over to the house. It's close to where I live. I just went over there. I just went to talk and consult and help because they wanted to move. They wanted out. This house had been on the market for 70 days, I think, roughly. They just wanted to sell it. They had no good interest. They thought their agent was doing a horrible job. The property was mismarketed. I came in and I told them originally I can do 720. And then we were going to talk about it for a couple days or whatever, you know how it goes. And then they called me back a week later and they were like, hey, and I actually called them back and I said, hey, because they raised interest rates that same week. And I called them back and I said, hey, I know I told you 720, I can't make it work. And so I understand if you don't want to go forward, it's fine. I get it. But if I can help you in any other way, let me know. They call me back a week later. They're like, hey, I'm about to do this other deal with this guy for 675. And I just want to know what you thought about it. And I was like, well, if you're going to sell it to him for 675, I'll take it for 675. And so that's how I ended up getting there and bought it. And here we are.
There you go. And then also, where did you find the funds to bring the deal down?
Hard money, 600K. We take hard money. Typically, they will lend up to 90% of purchase price. And then I've got some private funds that we deploy for seconds as well as our own money. So we'll bring our own money in for seconds and rehabs, and we'll also raise for rehabs and stuff. So.
Gotcha. Well, I can't wait to hear about it. I hope you make a killing off that property there.
Oh, me too. That's a thorn in my side, that one.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's always funny. I can't tell you how many times people tell me that, hey, you should start flipping. And I'm always like, no. I think I'm going to hold off on that. And I don't know. Right now, I think we're crushing it so much with wholesaling properties, listing properties, novating properties, where we're making a good chunk of change. I don't need to take on any risk.
I tend to agree.
Yeah, that's just my personal opinion. People are killing it on flips, but for us at this, even my wife, she's like, we're not gonna deal with that.
Yeah.
That being said, I mean, if you haven't already just told me that through this flip and everything else that's going on in your life and a lot of blessings, what do you think your number one struggle is right now in this real estate space?
So I had an acquisitions manager going on all these appointments, and he went like 0 for 35 or something. And so I said, and didn't bring a contract home, and interest rates the fear meter was high. Interest rates are getting jacked up all the time. So I said, all right, man, you're on the bench. I'm going on the appointments, and I'm going to see with my own eyes, what's going on out there. Cause he's telling me, right. And I'm going to see with my own eyes what's going on out there. And if I can't get contracts, then we're going to have to make a serious course correction. And so I went out there myself, and the biggest struggle that I've seen is that people have three prices, right? What they ask for, what they actually want, and what they'll take. So I was able to, and our process is designed to find what they'll take. And so I'm able to extrapolate what they'll take, but the most I can pay in this environment is 100,000 less, 120,000 less, because I have to account for the uncertainty on the buy side, and the buyers seem to basically disappear overnight is what it felt like. The fear was really high. Nobody was looking to take on the more expensive money. It was shell shock just to go from 3% to 5% even. Right. And so that was the biggest struggle, was trying to, and still even is right now, to close the gap between, they'll take 380 and that's a lower number, but I can pay 300. I can pay 290. It's just there's a disconnect between seller perception of value and what an investor can pay.
Right. 100%. Okay. So your acquisition guy, let me know if he's still with you, and you decided to go out there. I mean, did you see that discount? Were you able to go out and lock up properties that he wasn't able to lock up?
In that time, I didn't do well myself.
So it's definitely like a market thing.
Yeah. And am I a perfect salesperson? Absolutely not. And did I make mistakes? And would a better salesperson have gotten some of the ones I didn't get? Probably. But it was extremely difficult compared to all the other selling I've done over the last several years.
Right.
And I got a few contracts, and those contracts are keeping the lights on around here. But we're leaning out. Our overhead was massive. We were, like I said, we were just growing crazy. And so it's been a lot to take all at the same time, along with the debt service of taking on these properties. We were running at $87,000 a month, and that happened very quickly. And so we're leaning to significantly less than that, and just to be right sized for our ability to acquire in this moment.
Yeah. No, that was what I mean. If it wasn't for the mastermind to just basically beat us up on like, hey, this is the time to be in your business, to lean out your company. I mean, to really look at the numbers. I mean, that's what my wife and I did. We looked at our numbers. We have a level 10 every week. Look at I mean, that feeling where you're like, hold on, I just had this amount in our bank account. Why is it so low? Because of all these charges. So we were always, basically cutting that stuff. And that's where we went up from 4 acquisition guys to just myself as acquisitions during that market correction, just because, they weren't locking stuff up. It was a lot easier at that time. But the thing is, I did take acquisitions, and I've talked about this in previous shows. I have taken over acquisitions fully for that short period of time, and I was able to lock up crap ton of contracts. No, and honestly, we're going into our best months. Yeah. So now we're getting into that rhythm again, where I'm going to be starting to build that sales team. I'm already posted like, hey, we're hiring. Because I like what you said earlier is, we started focusing on, people that need to sell. So a lot of that, one, pre-foreclosures, right? But also inbound. We started focusing a lot more on inbound PPC and stuff like that. Shout out to the Bateman Collective group. That being said, and again, I got a lot of my strategies and a lot of my motivation from you in that talk a couple weeks ago. So what are your strategies to get through this recession and come out the other side even stronger?
I think just staying in the game, because what I realized is, no matter how big I'm looking at this like a corridor, and on the other side of this corridor is we just came from a big banquet hall into a corridor, and we got to come out the other side of this corridor, and there's going to be another big banquet hall. So if you don't get down the hallway, though, you're never going to make it into that banquet hall. And I'm just trying to get through this hallway, and I'm trying to increase my runway by decreasing my overhead. I'm obviously trying to still improve, get better, focus on more potent leads and lead sources, all that stuff. So I'm doing all the stuff you should do to improve your business, but I'm doing it now. And everybody should do this all the time, but we're being forced to do these things. So it's good, because we're going to get so much better at what we do, be able to serve our customers better. And then when we enter that banquet hall, those who didn't come through this corridor, they're not going to have a chance. Not against me. I mean, I'll come on out, like I tell sellers that I'm so confident in our product. I'm confident in our product on both sides. I tell sellers that if you find somebody who's got a team like I've got, who works as hard as we work, who come out here, who come to your house, who do everything that we do, make hundreds of thousands of phone calls to get this done for you, I recommend you work with them. Do it. And I say the same thing on the other side, on the sales side. If you have somebody that can bring you better properties, or bring you more consistent deal flow, go buy their deals. Do it.
Right.
Do it. But I believe in our product.
Absolutely. Colton, let me ask you this. What have you recently read or even listened to that just inspired you and that you would like to share?
Recently read or inspired me. So Alex Hormozy, he just put out a reading list. I just started on all these. So I think they're all sitting behind me, but he put out this list. He said there's 13 books. He says, I read a lot of books. I skim most. And then he listed off like 13 books that he's like, these books I study.
Right.
And so one of them is the sales acceleration formula, predictable revenue. I'm just trying to figure out, Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson is the one that I've kind of started on, because I want to do, I'm forging into this space as well, where I'm going to get on camera. I'm going to talk to people, and I'm going to start my social media journey, all that stuff. I'm starting to get some context, some resources for that. Cause I exited social media, probably 2-3 years ago, haven't touched it since. And so I'm kind of going to roll the ball on that now.
Good. You sound great. I know you said earlier in the podcast, you were excited to use the mic, and yeah, the mic sounds really good, dude.
Great. Perfect. Glad.
And the more shows I've done, and I've had like one or two people, and you included, have had good mics. And right now I kind of have like a cheapo mic, so I actually just spent like $500 like on a nice mic. So
yeah,
hopefully I'll sound as good as you.
No, you sound good. Shout out Rode Pod Mike.
There it is. Cole, and let me ask you this: what is a myth in real estate that you like to debunk?
A myth in real estate. A myth in real estate. I think that, I mean, for me, I don't know if it's necessarily in real estate. I think you could apply it more generally to business, but I just think that, like I had mentioned earlier, you just absolutely do not need to reinvent the wheel. I thought I did. And I think that anything you want to know, and maybe another thing is that the thing I find particularly enjoyable and helpful about this particular industry and these communities is everybody's so helpful. If you message me, if you message any of the guys that I know and that we work with in CG and the, you know, if some random person just DMs them with anything, they'll respond. Like, they're going to try to help you in any way that they can, like, just for in the spirit of giving. So I would say that if you want to start by leaning on other people and leaning on the community and people that are doing this stuff. And I think the myth is that maybe you have to go it alone.
For sure. Absolutely. Colt, let me ask you this. What is you've only been in this industry for a couple of years. What is your ultimate goal, the outcome of this industry? I mean, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years. So we've always said we wholesale and flip to make money to buy assets. And so we're ultimately converting in this system, we're converting our time at the very beginning, because we start with no money, very little money, and we're converting our time and our knowledge and our efforts to money, which that's not full cycle. You have to convert that money to assets. And until you've taken your efforts and converted them fully to assets, then I don't think you're done converting. And so personally, I don't believe you're done with the process, because money's cool. It costs a lot in taxes and it loses value, right? So we have to deploy that money and own the assets and ultimately reap income from them. So my goal is to go full cycle, get into the assets, and have them spit returns.
Absolutely. And that, I mean, I would like to take that a little deeper. So, a lot of people, are okay with 10 rental properties. Then you got people that have a bunch of apartment complexes, or people that have 500 doors. Where do you want to be at? I mean, I know you want to get assets, but how many assets and what type of assets?
I think it's starting to change. It's hard to say, and I think it's started to change for me already. Because I've got my first kid's about 1.5 years, and then I got another kid on the way. I do find myself wanting to spend more time with the family at home, that stuff. So, but if you would have asked me 6 months ago, I would have told you, I want $100 million in cash. Like I want $100 million net worth. I want to, it was always 100 million. It used to be 50 million. Then I said it was 100 million, and then more recently I started to think, 30,000 a month sounds interesting with, from the assets. And I hesitate to call them passive, but that's what everybody else would typically understand, because it's still a lot of work. Right. But, passive income, 30,000 seems, with the freedom that comes from that, is starting to look and feel very attractive, as kind of a minimum threshold.
Right. Now, one thing I love, what Jason said, CEO of Collective Genius, is, you got to have a massive, massive active income to have massive passive income, right? And that just really solidified it for me. So one thing me and my wife actually decided, so we've been in this business now, this is our third year, and we learned a lot. In this 30 years, we made a lot of money. We spent a lot of money. We had, cause we just built our family. So we decided, cause we've seen, cats out here, they're within 6 months have gotten 100 doors. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Just by like you said earlier, learn from somebody, then they 100 doors in 6 months. It can happen that fast. So what we're actually going to be doing is, I wanted to get some assets this year. We did pretty good this year, but we spent so much money on the wedding, buying a house, etc. So our next year, we're calling it the year of, and this, I haven't shared this with actually anybody yet. We're going to call it the year of savings. So next year is just going to be all savings. Because we came from like nothing, super in debt, little condo, to living a really comfortable lifestyle. And next year is going to be the life of just savings. We have a goal of how much we want to set aside, and then 2024 is when we're going to start buying our assets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that. So we put a lot of growth through our business this year. When you look at, it's tough because when you record stuff on the P&L, the properties get the full amount. But if you take the properties for the full amount, bought and sold with the notes and everything, 3.6 million through our business this year. Truly, it was just north of $1 million because a lot of it's, double escrows and stuff. It gets messed up in accounting, but truly just over $1 million through our business this year. The thing is, we spent so much of it to grow so aggressively. We were on this track to grow. I was telling people I was going to have 35 employees. I was going to have a 35 person company, and we were going to do 5, 6, 7 million a year. And we were aggressively pursuing that. And then it was like breaks, like the Fed with interest rates is like breaks, like, and so, obviously I still probably want to head there. We're just taking a break from the aggressive growth. So, so we have been able to acquire assets though. So
that's awesome.
I think that it's when the opportunity presents itself, and if even in that moment you don't need the money, you got more cash than you need, just keep it in the property kind of thing. So we ended up keeping 13 units that were all multifamily in Omaha, Nebraska, which is where we're from.
Nice.
And a single family home there as well. And then here we've got a sixplex that is one of the best deals we ever bought. Really, we bought it for about $1 million, and at the moment it was worth 1.8 to 2.1. We bought ourselves into about $1 million in equity. We've lost about 25% of that just to the market in the last 6 months, but gonna try to keep it. And so that's another thing, keep it where you can. And the other thing we pursue is creative finance. So no money down, little money down deals, and get it in the portfolio and get cash flowing.
Absolutely. Colin, I just can't thank you enough. You told us earlier, your schedule is all over the place and it's super packed with so many great things. And I thank you so much for coming on this show to share some of the value and, to have people reach out to you. Again, Colin, I know you're not on social media a lot yet, but you will be here shortly. Where can we find you on social media?
coltonfastREI. Just got that on my Instagram, got it on my Twitter. I'm gonna get out there, and you'll see me out there. I think my Facebook's out there too. Colton.fast /Colton.fast. Start seeing some of my stuff here in not too much time.
Beautiful. You're going to blow up, man. Again, thank you so much. Go bug Colin, hit him up in his DMs, ask him a bunch of questions about the rentals that he's getting, his cash flow. If you're in Phoenix, go see him at his office. And if you're looking for a job, I'm sure he's going to be hiring here soon. Again, we're going to see you here next time on the Real Estate Block podcast. Talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.